Did you know your business can honor God while transforming lives around the world? Welcome to the IBAM Biblical Entrepreneurship Show, the weekly podcast that inspires and equips Christian entrepreneurs to build sustainable businesses that glorify God and uplift impoverished communities. At IBAM, our mission is built on the three fish metaphor. Give a fish. We provide startup loans to launch businesses. Teach to fish. We offer entrepreneur training for lasting growth, equipped for discipleship. We empower discipleship to multiply impact. Join IBAM's founder, Steve Adams, as he shares powerful solo episodes and expert interviews filled with mentorship insights and real-life stories of how biblical entrepreneurship is advancing the Great Commission. Subscribe now and get ready to be inspired, equipped, and empowered to make an eternal impact.
Hello, this is Steve Adams, CEO and founder of International Business as Mission, and I'm just really excited in this episode of the IBAM Biblical Podcast to bring to you a story about a young man who lives in Indonesia. That is a country that most Americans don't know a lot about. It has over nearly 5,000 islands that are inhabited. There's a crazy number of islands, something like 30,000 islands that make up this large country that, if you include the ocean in between the islands, it looks to me as large as the United States. Has just under 300 million people. It is the majority are Muslim in terms of their culture and their faith. It is a Muslim culture. There's a significant number of Han Chinese also who are business people in general, but probably shouldn't maybe say that stereotype, but a lot of Chinese are there as well. Recently, myself and several members of our team went there, and we had a few purposes. One was to meet a business owner who owns a large nationwide national distribution company, and that was a great meeting. We also met some potential new partners, and then we also met some of our current and existing students in Indonesia, and one of them is a young man named Sauron, and he has a really cool business. And so what I want to talk about in this podcast is his story, okay? But, just in case maybe this is the first time you've listened in, IBAM, what our focus on is empowering indigenous, meaning believers who live in that country, are from that country. This is their culture. So indigenous believers, primarily globally, they're Muslim background believers, but we work with others in other parts of the world who are not. And typically, especially if we work with Muslims who have become Christ followers, they're persecuted by their government, by their families, by their culture in general. They're rejected, lose their jobs often, and are harassed. And an amazing thing that, I first experienced 15, 16 years ago when I was working in the Middle East, how important business is to the Muslim community. And what we learned when we were able to teach biblical entrepreneurship to a Muslim background believer, they would be re-embraced to a degree by their families and by their community. It was amazing. I remember one gentleman who was from Uzbekistan. He had a window frame building business. He built door frames, window frames, doors. I think he built windows as well. And he said that his biggest referral source was the local imam, leader of a mosque. And I asked him why, and he said, in the Muslim tradition, in the culture, negotiations are never done. And there's a lot of deceit in business. And he said, Muslims generally agree and believe that Christians are honest and that you can trust the words that they say. And so they like doing business with them. They don't agree with their faith, but they they like doing business with them, and they're very pragmatic. And we have found that time and time again, whether it was in Ukraine, where we worked with an Arab church, or in any number of Central Asian countries like Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, etc. All of those countries that we've been in the past and continue to work with, we find this over and over and over again. IBAM, what we do is we come alongside leaders, because we only enter into a country or to a region with a partnership with an organization that has as their primary focus the growth of the kingdom through the development of churches, whether that's traditional churches, house churches, small cell groups, whatever it is. They're committed to that multiplication. We call that movements, where they have a significant need for economic sustainability and support, and they want to be able to generate that from within rather than relying exclusively on outside support. And I'm not saying that outside support is bad. There are certain strategic investments that believers in places with means need to invest in places where believers don't have means, because people who are unreached are being reached. And that's a positive, strong thing. All we're trying to do is to come alongside these movement leaders and equip people. It's usually 15 to 20% of their population is really well suited to be an entrepreneur. They feel called to it. And so we come alongside those called people who their leadership have identified as have integrity, they're trustworthy, they're solid, they have great character. And we teach them biblical entrepreneurship. And then we also bring capital and help them get started. That's what IBAM does. And what the end result is you have a biblical entrepreneur who is within their own culture. They have language and culture. They combine the skills that we teach them with the multiplication skills they've learned from the movement they're in. And now they become a productive entrepreneur missionary in their own culture. And they also become a leader in their church and in their community. They become a problem solver. And there's just so many layers of benefit that happen from this process. So that's what we do. That's what we've been doing for a long time. Our model has shifted now, where we empower them to do all of the work. But nevertheless, the core vision has never really wavered since 2004. So that's what we do. 18 months ago, we were in Indonesia. And I'm not going to name the exact region, because I do want to keep some protection, even though this doesn't go out to that part of the world. We worked with a group that we work with there, and one of the students, who I said his name is Suryan, came through the process, went through loan committee, and we saw him present his business. And so he went to this university, he graduated from it, he's been out for a few years, and he really wanted to have a business where he could reach students and people locally there. And so he set up a business where he cleans helmets and he cleans shoes. Okay, now you may be thinking, what kind of business is that? Well, if you've ever seen movies in Southeast Asia or been there, you see that there are just a massive number of scooters, these motorized scooters. That's the primary means of transportation. There's a lot of cars as well. But in between all those cars, you got scooters going all over the place, and they get their shoes and their helmets extremely dirty. And so it illustrates something that is important to know, in that we don't tell them what business to start. We don't even give them ideas. They come with ideas based on their intimate knowledge of their own marketplace. And this is an example of that. And so his whole business model is, a small shop across the street from the university. And already he's very successful. He has an employee now. But here's the really cool thing that I wanted to share with you in this podcast, because I was there with two other men, mature. We're all in our 60s. And this young man, who's in his late 20s, taught us so much. He gave us, we said, Sauron, what is your kingdom plan? Like how can you use this business to reach people? And we honestly were curious, okay? Because we've seen so many expressions around the world that we needed to, we always feel the need to ask that question. And so we asked him, and he said, well, it's kind of simple. He said, I just try to strike up a conversation with my customers. And then as they come in over and over, build a relationship with them. And usually what happens is they start to tell me their problems. And he said, I listen, I don't offer any advice, I just listen. And then I get to the point where I feel like they trust me. And I ask this simple question. I said, would you like to know how God has helped me with my problems? And he said, they almost all say yes. And then that leads into a conversation about the gospel. And we just sat back and were amazed. It was like, that is so incredibly simple. And it really convicted me. Like, why can't I operate that simply? And it challenges me. And so I've been trying to employ this means of kingdom growth through the businesses that I'm in. And so anyway, I was able to see this young man, 15, 18 months after we were with him and approved the loan. And he's just beaming. He's excited about God using him through the platform of business. We were there. We had dinner with like 28 people. And they were all our former students and their spouses and leaders of this movement. And it was so gratifying. I wish you could be there. I wish I could take you and that your eyes could see what my eyes see. But that's why I do this podcast and tell these stories, is I want you to know what I see. And we were just in Africa a few weeks ago. We worked with 9 students and 7 were approved for getting funding. We went into some neighborhoods and we saw a guy who is buying cars. So his whole business, he buys the most popular car in Zambia. He parts it out and then he resells the parts to repair shops. That's all he does. And it's really simple. He's very successful. And he's reaching people for Christ in this small sub-neighborhood of a large city in Zambia. We also saw another guy who has raises chickens, and we went out into the bush in Africa, not way out, but it was a good half-hour drive outside of the city. We saw his chicken farm and the family that he employs to do that work, and so that was exciting. And we also, I was shuttled to and from the airport with another one of our students' business who has a transportation business. He's a taxi. And so Fagus took us to our hotel. He took us around to this neighborhood to see this other business where he parts out cars. And then he took me back to the airport when I had to leave. And so it's just really exciting work. I want you to know that as a listener, I hope that at some point when you see emails that you might consider going to our website and even making one small donation or becoming a regular giver. Because, we have our major donors and our budget is growing 50% a year the last 3 years so that we can impact more people around the world, because we also work in Central Asia, we work in Africa, and we work in Asia Pacific. We have opportunities in India and South America coming, and we're limited by the resources that we have. And one of my goals with this podcast is to raise up literally an army, tens and thousands of small givers, people who would say, you know what, I can give $50 a year or $100 a year. And as we do that, that empowers us to help thousands and thousands of people who are benefiting from this. The other thing I want to share with you is I'm very excited. We just announced the launch of something called Third Fish Academy, and the website is thirdfish, so thirdfish.org, thirdfish.org. Go there. It's absolutely free. It will always be free. There are no in-app purchases, no tricks. It is our entire curriculum that we do internationally. We have refashioned it for a Western audience on a domestic learning management system platform, and it has 22 small sections, like 15, 20 minutes, 5 modules. You can learn how to integrate your faith in business. And if you want to start a business, it'll help you do that. And there's a business plan builder inside there and everything. So I'd encourage you to go there as well. Anyway, thank you. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was encouraging. And go to IBAM.org and join us in this movement. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the International Business as Mission podcast. a space where we explore how to build businesses rooted in biblical principles that create global impact. But we're not just here to talk. We're taking action to spread entrepreneurship to poverty-stricken communities around the world. Our mission is to be the catalyst that empowers people to build sustainable livelihoods and break the cycle of poverty. We follow the 3 fish principle. 1. Give a fish, providing startup loans to empower entrepreneurs. 2. Teach to fish, offering entrepreneurial training for sustainable business practices. And 3. Equip for disciple making, building a community that supports spiritual growth alongside business success. This is life-changing work, but we can't do it alone. We need passionate impact partners like you to join us on this mission by becoming a donor. Your generous gift will directly fund the establishment of new businesses that provide dignified work and hope. Just imagine your donation could help a single mother in rural Africa start a small farming venture that allows her to feed her children and send them to school, or a young man in Southeast Asia to launch a small business. Breaking the chains of generational poverty. This is the power of entrepreneurship as a force for good. Will you join us in unleashing it? Go to ibam.org now to start impacting lives through the transformative power of business as mission. Together we can create a world of flourishing.